knowledge that we all use. So, Karan already told you guys I'm philosophers now, I have to live up to it, and hopefully I will put you guys to sleep on the way. So, I structured it like this particular how we live a happy life because I think all of us, we have, as we grown up, we have this idea of what happiness is. And we kind of learned it. And we kind of go through life with the same idea, but once we kind of hit something difficult or we have a hard time, we try to hit the same way with the same hammer again. But maybe we should be thinking of something else. So this is kind of a little bit of my journey of trying to introspect a little bit and try to figure out what is this thing called happiness. Yeah. So first I'm going to start off with like a few ideas, and then we're going to try to piece it all together. So the first one is this is kind of like my favorite, one of my favorite quotes that kind of like really blew up my mind when I read at the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. It's an excellent book. So it says, desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy and very careful. And what this says is basically that the moment you have a desire, the moment you have, say, I want something, you're saying that I am incomplete now, and there's something in the future that I need to be complete. That means that right now, you're missing something. And the part about that is that you realize, okay, I have to go on to this chase, I'm chasing something. And during that chase, you're not living in the moment when you're not happy. And even once you achieve that, you realize that you're back to where you were. It's not like that happiness is going to be with you forever. So there is a sad vibe or what vacation or whatever it is. You realize you're back to your baseline really fast. Another thing, hedonism. I think this is kind of what we kind of think of as pleasure, and this is kind of, I think this is like very popular. I think whenever I see dating apps, everyone's like, I like the food and I like to go here and there and all of that. So this is a graph by Naval Ravikant, who is the author of Dopamine and a researcher. And what she shows is that the moment that, so this is when you are doing something pleasurable and you get that dopamine spike. But what you realize is that you have that craving right before and after whatever. So the dopamine level falls once you get it back, and then you go back to your baseline. So this is what I would describe more as if you're a hardcore hedonist and you really believe that pleasure is the meaning in your life. And what you realize is that as you keep getting that same pleasure, whether it's food or sex or drugs or video games or whatever, to an extent, TV shows, whatever it is your chosen poison, you realize that once you get really into that and you keep hitting it, what happens is that first of all, your dopamine spike is shorter, so you're not really getting as much out of it. And you're actually getting into this dopamine deficit. So that your baseline level itself is lower because you're so constantly exposed to it that your body is kind of compensating by not releasing as much dopamine, right? So this is really what kind of addiction and craving looks like, right? Where you feel like you need to get that shot of pleasure just for you to reach your baseline, right? And so, or your normalcy. And every time you don't have it, you're really kind of depressed or really sad. So, and what I will kind of talk about a little bit more is a lot of what we should be doing is not keep going for these different spikes, but try to move the baseline itself. This is Karan. We should
0 to 1987.
Sorry?
0 to 1987.
So this is control. This is another interesting idea, which is basically stop worrying and attaching your identity to things that are beyond your control. Right? I see a lot of people do. So they're so moved by politics and by things that are like really things that we can't really influence. But really, we should try to stick to things that are within our control, right? Things that we can change. That's the reason. Yeah, look at it. I love this. While I was doing this, I was thinking about whether I should stick a wallpaper. This in my room. Maslow's hierarchy. So you have. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but we'll keep coming back to this. But the basic idea is that you have like a set of needs that you go in progression. One of my friends told me a very interesting thing. He said, Gen Z is a generation that does this in reverse. So they start with passion and meaning and then they go downwards to get the other things. But really it's, so first we start out with the basic needs, yeah, water, food, things, yeah, let's say, now belonging, esteem, etc. Okay. So this is kind of a journey. This is actually has a lot of parallels to what Bouvier was talking about. Anyone know who Simone de Bouvier is? So she was a French philosopher, and she actually wrote the book The Second Sex, which has a lot of the foundational ideas for feminism. But she also wrote another really good book called The Ethics of Ambiguity, and this comes from that, where she says there's this sort of moral taxonomy that people do. And so she says that the first stage is the subman, which is basically, the way I visualize this is when I was in college, I used to have two roommates, and one roommate and I used to love talking about like, does the life have meaning and is there free will, and you know, and the other roommate would come to fill water, and the moment he saw us discussing philosophy, he'd be like, quickly just study in and then fill the water and then run away. So it's kind of like this idea that it's kind of like a non-idea, where you don't kind of really question your morality, or you don't, you kind of just go through life with whatever ideas you have, and you don't question it. So then you go to the serious one, which is where you have a very definite moral framework in your head. You can kind of, for example, people, like a very cliche example would be like people who are very take religion at face value, right? So they have a very strong moral framework that they follow. You could have your own moral framework about altruism or whatever it is. And so these people really shape their behavior based on this moral framework. And they're really, in a sense, you could say some people are following it, some people are also, in a sense, a slave to it. Right? A lot of their actions and their ideas come from this. Right? So then there's nihilism, when you kind of like ask a few more why questions and you realize there is no moral framework, there is no morality, is just this, it's almost the idea that we humans created. We come from dust, we go to dust, and you live for 100 years, you have sensory experiences, and then you die. Sounds sad, but you know, so such is reality. And so when I was in this phase, I was like, so it hit me so hard that, oh shit, there's no meaning, like, what do I really do? And so I used to just lie down in bed and watch K-dramas all day. So that was my phase, going to that. And then you kind of come back, and this is where Bouvier really kind of hits me, where she says that, so okay, there is no objective meaning, there's nothing that you have to do or that you want to do. But what you can do is that you can realize that you can create, you have the freedom to create your own meaning and what you want. So you can decide what game you want to play, who your players are, what the rules of the game are, what is your winning condition, and you can design your life to that scale, you know, as you wish, and you can decide how you want to play. So I think this is what was really interesting about Bouvier, and how you can kind of incorporate meaning into your life even if you don't really believe there's an objective. So this is like a really ambitious, most of these are happiness. But this I just wanted to go through like some philosophies just to touch on a little bit, and you realize that I kind of like put a problem for each one, in the sense that you need to kind of each philosophy has a different way of dealing with happiness and meaning, and you kind of have to go with what makes sense to you. and through your experiences, how it helps. Because once you kind of go into it, what really helps is that you have some experiences, and once you realize that this philosophy aligns with you, then you can realize that, oh, a lot of people have actually thought about this, and you can learn a lot from that, what you should do in your life. So, Buddhism, this we talked about it already. Then there is existentialism, which is really what Bouvier was talking about. And there you have to, society doesn't like you to play your own games, so you have to face that. There's also utilitarianism, where there's always this balance between happiness and meaning, and some of us are more happiness aligned, some are more meaning aligned, and you kind of have to see how do you get both part of your life, right? So you could be someone who is like, you have an amazing relationship, you have a great job, your weekends, you have a lot of fun with your friends, but then you have this nagging feeling at the end of the day, what am I really doing for the world? And what is the larger meaning of my presence here? That's when you realize, okay, maybe this meaning, on the meaning scale, you haven't really done enough, and maybe you need to think about that. So, and of course, Buddhism as well. This is anyone who has scans, basically different. So again, characteristics. So kind of like to dive it all a little bit in. Happiness, how do we, so the kind of like, I feel like excluded some things, but what do we really think happiness is? So I think if I have to say, it's really more of a pleasant, neutral state where you are accepting what you have in your life. Right? And once you're accepting and living in the moment, you're not paid. And you can appreciate what you have in that moment and what you're doing in that moment. And so in a sense, it's kind of like more related to peace in a sense. And a nice quote that Naval says is, happiness is peace in motion and peace is happiness at rest. Right? And so it's kind of like once you have that inner contentment and where you're not running after things, whatever you do, you're fully engaged with it and you can be present in that. And in a sense, happiness is kind of aligned with that. So this, I think, is what is bad, but it says less judgment and more acceptance. So that kind of talked about that. And it's less related to external rewards and more related to your internal state. Right? So less chasing and more about your state and well-being as a person. So I think a lot of the things are kind of oxymorons in a sense. Like on the one hand, I'm telling you, hey, desire is not good. But on the one hand, you kind of also realize that living life without desires is, should we all become monks then? So in a sense, you still have to live in the world and do things because you want hands and feet and you have to do things. So, but what I think is the takeaway is that you have to kind of like be really conscious about your desire and say, what is it that I'm willing to get upset about? Like, what is something that matters so much to me that I'm willing to be unhappy about it and willing to be upset about it? And so I kind of like created a little bit of a flow where I'm like, okay, I have a desire, is that how do I have it? So your desire, so I think one of the first things to ask is, will it increase or decrease my long-term well-being? Right? And what we realize, social media scrolling and that binge drinking and all of these things are not really good for you long-term. So those things are out. And you also realize that things that you kind of really crave or that you really want, like, and so for example, like building a startup, because it's planning of it, is that you realize that you really want to do that, but once you go through with building a startup, you realize even though it has a lot of meaning for you, how difficult the journey actually is. About all the risk you have to manage, the financial uncertainty, all the stress, and you realize that in the long term, this is maybe not really making you happy. So you go through that with your experiences and with maybe your judgment on what is really making you happy or not. So will it decrease the long term? Yes, no, yes, no, and probably if it's decreasing your long term well-being, probably you should let it be. so let's say it's not increasing your long-term well-being, then the next question is asked is who's in control? So this goes back to our idea of control, and I think so. A very nice quote that I read was a rational person can be happy by cultivating an indifference to things outside of their control. So things that are not outside your control, it's just worry. It's not really something that you can change or influence anyway. So not really worth your time. So if it's in your control, and if it's not in your control, your acceptance. Don't fight it. I think the more that you can accept, the more you're at peace with. And so yeah. So tying back to my earlier point, even though you are kind of accepted, you still have to figure out a way to manage it while still being at peace. So if you're single, you want to be in a relationship, but still it's a process, right? It takes a lot of dating and going through breakups and relationships and all of that. So you still have to figure out a way that to have this desire, but also still keeping your peace. So this is, I don't know where this video is from. This is like a screenshot actually. So this is, yes, so this is the marshmallow test. Very fun, watch it on YouTube. Basically the idea is that you give like these kids like a marshmallow. And then I told I will give you another marshmallow in 10 minutes if you don't eat this one for 10 minutes. And so you can see like the kids are like, some of them are like looking the other way, and some of them are like scratching it, and some of them are like, like doing all different kinds of things to, just not look at that so that they can get another one. And then some of them of course eat it. So I think this is kind of like an overarching concept that is, I think, really important to happiness in general, is that you kind of can have cultivated this strength to give up your short-term pleasure for the long-term well-being. And I think this is tied into a lot of the things that I've already talked about. So if you have systems, if you have habits to do this, this is really important. I think it's important for your career, it's important for your relationships, that you're not like just throwing your anger at your partner all the time, that you can do boring stuff. And science has already proved that these people are people who got the second marshmallow were happier, scored better in their tests, did better financially, better relationships. So you need them from that. So this, I think I'm really stretching my time, so I'm really going through this video. It's fine. Go backwards. Yeah. So this actually basically this is science is kind of like people have done a lot of studies on happiness, a lot of long-term studies, 10 years, 20 years, lifetimes, and they can all come into it's kind of like really simple if you break it all down. That you need to have a middle class income at least to satisfy all your basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy, basic needs, and your safety. So once I've got that covered, health is really important. Exercise, so that your you could help chronic pain from disease and obesity, things like that is reducing your happiness. Doing what you love, flow. This is another really big concept. Could talk 10 minutes about that itself. But doing something that you really enjoy in the moment while being present, and doing that often is also leads to happiness. And voluntarily, could be family, friends, your spouse, even pets. That is really important. People who you feel supported by and who feel like they have your back. So that's a really important component of this. Yes. So this I have no idea about, but I just want to put this here. This is like a nice way to kind of formulate everything. This is from direct copy paste from Naval Ravikant. It's kind of like just a formula for all the different things. You can kind of copy paste and edit it a little bit as you like to what makes sense to you, and then do it. that's pretty much it. These are the 4 books that, especially Naval Ravikant, I remember. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, about this control content, choosing when to be indifferent and won't have influence over things. Hasn't that become a gray area in this era of social media? Like, for example, not specifically highlighting anything, let's say this father conversation, which happened. I would probably tell myself that I have no way of influencing that and just accept it and move on. But surely there may be examples where people will really take to social media to express their opinion, and maybe there is some more awareness created from it, or there's a movement which comes out of it, which kind of shows that you can still have an influence over the world. And won't that again become this, in some ways, like a painful thing of where does my influence get?
Yeah.
How do I deal with something or without it? Do you have any thoughts on something?
So I studied environmental science in my bachelor's, and I was very passionate about climate change, climate issues, social work, all of that. And I think for me, where it comes from is that at the end of the day, I feel like I can't make any significant change in how bad climate change is. But if you change the wording a little bit, to my desire is to fix climate change, to my meaning is that I want to contribute as much as I can to climate change. The first will make you unhappy, but the second won't. Because the second is tied more to the maximum that you can contribute, and that is your meaning. But the first is more outcome based. It's like I have to change the needle on this, and if it doesn't change, then you're upset. So I think that framing to shifting from outcome to what is in your control makes a lot of sense.
And you having
Very deep question.
Thanks, Robert. And fun fact, usually I'm an actor of Naval's friends. So,
Yeah.